how do you feel about just the current state of the country? I have callers who are upset, stressed, nervous, and I tell them be anxious for nothing. But what are your thoughts?
I think there's a lot of reason to be concerned. I will say, um, I don't, I'm not a particularly person who watches RuPaul a lot, but I happened to watch an interview they were doing, and they said something really profound that I've been holding on to, which was, it's okay to look at the darkness, just don't stare at it. And so
Yeah.
I've really taken that to heart to make sure, there's darkness out there, but I get to look at my kids and my wife. The flowers still smell beautiful. The sun is out. So those things keep helping me not to stare into the darkness. You got to look at it, make sure you know it's there. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for good and to make sure that, the future is as proud of us as we are of the past.
RuPaul has some gems though. That brother's lived a life. He has some gems out
I
there.
believe it now. It was just a snippet I happened to see on social, and I clicked on it. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I needed that right then.
Absolutely. So, you've been on before, but I like to always remind people the role of public advocate is so important. But in case folks may not know, tell them what the public advocate does.
No problem. There are three citywide elected officials. You have the mayor, you have the public advocate, you have the comptroller. There are four if you count the speaker of the city council, who's elected by the body itself. The last public advocate was Tish James, who people know is now the lieutenant governor. The one before her was Bill de Blasio, former mayor. It's important to have a citywide level position that can push back if things are going awry in the city. There's also some charter mandated powers of ombudsman and legislation, making sure that the city is doing what the agencies are doing with the charter mandates. So it's a pretty powerful position and a great platform to raise issues that otherwise might not be raised.
And you are second in line to the mayor of New York City.
Well,
And
more
like I
people
said, I
know
want to
that
get
than
to that.
before now because of what's going on. But yes,
Right.
that is
Yeah,
something
what
that is good.
deputy mayors have stepped down and so on. Before we get into that, though, I want to remind people of some really important work that you did all the way back in 2015. You were part of the Fair Chance Act, known as the Ban the Box Act. And just remind people what that was because it's really important that I think the entire country should have.
No, I appreciate it. I think we, whether I was in a council or in a public advocate, I've really trying to be in the forefront of making sure things are operating fairly. And so the fair chance was to make sure that people were not asked about their interaction or really criminal convictions or arrests until after they were offered a job. And that can't be the sole reason that you were not offered a job, unless there was a nexus to the crime and the job. But other than that, there was no reason not to offer that job. And if you had it after you offered it, you withdrew it, you had to give a reason why. And of course, when you do that, they say everything's going to fall apart. And of course, that's not what happened. Nothing fell apart. Actually, more people had access to jobs than they did before, which is a good thing.
It's so important, especially when we have a president who is a convicted felon. It should be there should be no
That's a
boxes
whole
on
nother
that.
show.
Like
That's
you,
correct.
yeah, hold up, but just that was 2015. That was 10 years ago. You did that. Like you have some really great receipts. All right, so I was watching a few of your interviews, preparing for this interview, and I saw a headline from a right wing from Fox News, and it said warnings on NYC Mayor Adams' possible super woke replacement. They called you super woke, and I said, "Well, what the?" I said, "Lord have mercy." And I'm just curious of how do you feel about people labeling you as being super woke? And I can't stand they've tried to take that word away. I've been using that since I was a kid, but super woke. They're trying to put a boogie word, a boogeyman word on you.
I have no problem with that. I guess they're super asleep or or something. I don't know what the opposite of that is. But I will say we're at a time where people don't even know what words mean. They just have emotional attachment to it. And so many of their viewers might have been the same folks who were screaming about Obamacare, but wanting to keep the health care they have in the Care Act, not realizing that's the same thing. And so we have charged words that people have no idea what that means. But if they want to call me somebody who wants to make sure that we have a society that tries to include people to have the best lives they can, and pushes back on those that want to exclude as many people as possible. I'll wear it.
Absolutely. All right. So
And
NYC
I didn't see
Mayor
that
Eric
headline, by the way,
Adams.
so I got to check
Oh,
that one
yeah.
out.
I just was like, come on. It was super woke. Lord have mercy. So, of course, charges have been dropped, but what is it? Without prejudice, so they could be refiled again. And so, and I know you've said that you haven't told Kathy Hochul what to do. You're not calling for him to step down. You got to be careful with that. I respect that completely. But can you explain to people, in case we can just make it plain, why is there a quid pro quo? Like, why do you see it as, with Mayor Adams having his charges dropped? Why does it translate into that there is a quid pro quo?
What's incredible is the boldness, the sheer audacity. Like, if you and folks should just read for themselves. Read the DOJ's original letter. Read Daniel Sasson from Southern District's letter, and then read the transcript from yesterday. It's remarkable that they've laid out, literally. This is not my words; these are their words. That this decision was not on the basis of guilt or innocence. That they did not look at the evidence at all. They literally said that this investigation, if it continues, will hamper his ability to help the president with his priorities, including immigration. This is what they said. It's not, at this point, it's not even interpretation. And if you read the transcript from yesterday, they repeated it. uh, and they literally said, and to their credit, they said there was no quid pro quo, but even if there was, it would not matter. And the judge also asked them, are you saying this to repeat that if there was a police commissioner that did something wrong, that but prosecuting them would prevent that commissioner from helping you with your priorities? Is that a reason to stop the case? They said yes, absolutely. So, like, I'm not even interpreting. I'm just reading what is there. And after we were concerned about this, after the DOJ letter, the man didn't even wait a few days, wait a week before he started traveling with Tom Honan, I guess, to carry out his end of the deal. Now, the man may believe
The borders are
the
correct,
borders
Tom
are,
Homan.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
The man may believe this is not quid pro quo because he believes in this stuff anyway. I think that might be part of his reasoning. So, hey, it's not really quid pro quo if I'm doing something I believe anyway in exchange for dropping a case. But it frankly is. And at this point, everybody knows it. And the DOJ is saying that it doesn't matter if it is. And I'm saying that it does. And you could take the personalities out of it. If this can happen to a city of a mayor of the major city, what is the implication for other mayors, smaller towns, smaller municipalities, the precedent that this sets?
Right. Because what it appears is that Mayor Eric Adams may have sold New York City out to Trump. That's what some people are interpreting,
It is
and
pretty
we
clear that
obviously.
the mayor has been really compromised by these investigations. And I always point out that he has a right to be presumed innocent, has a right to hear his case in court. That's not what happened. That is not what this is. And they have made very clear that none of this has to do with evidence. And it's hard to, you can't govern in the situation that he's in. And you have seasoned city powerful folks who just are known to only want to make city work. We have four deputy mayors that just resigned who were put in place very precisely when this happened to make sure there was some credibility in the government.
But I do want to ask you about immigration, because I've been talking about it a lot on these airwaves, and I want to say he famously said, "Bring the immigrants here." Mayor Eric Adams said that.
People
Everybody
forget about
thinks
that. He
that's
literally
his
told the governors to send them here. But
yeah, this famous quote. But I will say, um, I have had a lot of people, black folks, calling in, really concerned about immigration, believing that there's too many immigrants that have been shipped over here, and it's taking resources away from them. and I don't want to take away their feelings around that, no matter what data I break down. So, what do you say to some people? I mean, all New Yorkers, obviously, but especially black New Yorkers who feel like there are immigrants coming here taking resources away from us. What's your response to that?
I'll do you one better. There are black immigrants. My family's Caribbean,
Mm.
so they have Caribbean people who
Yeah.
are angry at the migrants and feel that they're taking away resources that they should have had or didn't come over the right way. So what I would say to that is I want to make sure those folks remain angry and remain very upset about what happened. And the fact that they haven't gotten what they were supposed to get is very real and should be lifted up and confirmed. I just want to make sure they stay angry at the right people. And so, what people do, like this mayor, is will tell people who are in pain, like long-term New Yorkers, who've been begging for housing, who've been trying to get jobs, who've been trying to get the health care that they deserve, never got it, and the mayor will tell them, we had to spend $7 billion on the migrants. And if we didn't have to do that, I would have spent it on all those things. And what I would ask those people is to ask the mayor and others, well, why didn't you before? Because that money didn't magically appear. It was always here. And so if you go back before the first migrant, many of us were saying, we have the money to deal with our homeless crisis. We have the money to deal with our mental health emergencies. We have the money to feed the hungry and house the homeless. Literally, we have that money. And we were always told that we didn't. And so what they want people now to be mad at are human beings who are coming over to try their best to do what most folks want to do, who had no decision-making power. They want you to be mad at them, but not at the leaders who actually decided never to spend that money on you in the first place, even though we had it. And that is, unfortunately, has been a successful strategy in the past, but we have to push back on it. And particularly with my Caribbean folks, I got to remind them, some of them overstayed their visa a little bit. Uh, they call us to try to help their family members whose papers ain't right. Like it's a real weird scenario, but it's a human scenario. And we have leaders that will play on that, and then you have leaders who will try to put it in perspective. So stay angry, very angry. Just aim it at the right people, the people who actually did those things to you, not the people who didn't.
Yeah, isn't it unfortunate that sometimes we fall for the otherism? Look over there versus the rich guy at the top. The rich guy at the top. Last question before.
What blows my
Yeah.
mind a little bit, and this is in 20 years, what's probably going to happen is the communities now dealing with the migrant crisis is very likely going to be complaining about the next the
Oh
next group.
yeah.
So that's going to blow my mind. But every time, and people they believe our time is different. Anytime you've had an influx of people of immigrants, every time there is pushback and blowback.
It happened
And
with the
we've
Italians in New York originally.
100%. And it turns out in the long term, it is actually very, very good. And has been the thing that helps carry us over. And quite frankly, in the Department of Education here in New York City Public Schools, if we did not have those children from that asylum population, by the way, who are here legally, we would have lost money in funding because we get paid per pupil. And so we just have to remind people of that, and but not ignore their pain or struggle or anger, and give validation to it at the same time.